vocal when it comes to speaking out against racism. And in this statement, he said that he's shocked and saddened by the alleged racism incidents during the game between Benfica and Real Madrid. He says there's absolutely no room for racism.
Where Vinícius Júnior alleged racist abuse, Mourinho involved in the discussions around whether what happened was Vinícius' fault or not. So he's not going to be involved in a mandatory press conference.
And he finishes off by saying that FIFA and football
they don't have to hold a mandatory press conference before their league game against AVF on Saturday. He's going to speak instead through the club's channel to preview the game. So the next opportunity that journalists will get to question Jose Mourinho then will be on Tuesday before Wednesday's Champions League playoff second leg game against Real Madrid. So you can imagine there'll be a hot attention on that one there. Jose Mourinho facing some of the headlines really there after Vinícius Júnior alleged racist abuse in that first leg match, that first leg playoff match in the Champions League between Benfica
launched an investigation. What happens next?
As we get it there.
Well, what they've done is they've appointed an ethics and disciplinary inspector who is going to look into what happened. Now, their job will be to gather evidence, to conduct interviews with relevant parties, and this process normally takes weeks. I wouldn't expect it to be done very, very quickly. For instance, I'd be surprised if it was completed before the inspector who is going to look into what happened. Their job will be to gather evidence, to conduct interviews with relevant parties, and this process normally takes weeks. I wouldn't expect it to be done very, very quickly. For instance, I'd be surprised if it was completed before the return game in Madrid next Wednesday. But if anybody is found guilty of breaking UEFA's anti-racism regulations, then they are looking at a minimum 10-match ban.
There was a high-profile incident 5 years ago between Slavia Prague and Rangers. What happened?
Yeah, this is interesting. This was back in April 2021, and it was a similar kind of incident in which the Slavia Prague player, Ondrej Kudela, he was accused of racially abusing the Rangers midfielder Glenn Kamara, and he also covered his mouth as well. Now, from beginning to end, it took 27 days from the time of the incident for the player, Kudela, to receive his 10-match ban. So it took 19 days for him to be provisionally given a one-match suspension by UEFA and 27 days for him to receive his 10-match ban. So looking at what has happened in the past, specifically that case, it would lead me to believe that there's every chance that
An investigation now. What happens next?
Well, wouldn't expect it to be done very, very quickly. For instance, I'd be surprised if it...
There was a high-profile incident 5 years ago between Slavia Prague and Rangers. What happened?
Yeah, it is interesting. This was back in April 20. It took 27 days from the time of the incident for the player.
Real Madrid with Vinícius Júnior complaining that he was abused racially, and his response to that has been widely condemned by a number of different people in football. Well, Mourinho's had another say today. He said the match was truly demanding in every aspect. Up until the 50th minute, it was a great game with maximum intensity, be it from a physical standpoint or a tactical standpoint, and the concentration we had to have to play a game of that level. But also, and this is the key bit really, I can't fail to acknowledge that from the 51st minute until now, and it won't end with this conversation, it hasn't been easy emotionally to deal with everything that happened and continues to happen. But there's a game tomorrow, an important one, a match that for our ambitions, for our dreams is essential to win. We have to stay focused and try to perform at the highest level. So the 51st minute, so this was when Vinícius Júnior scored, and you might remember what happened after that. It proved to be the winner for Real Madrid in the first leg of this playoff, second leg on Wednesday. He ran to the corner flag, he celebrated, sort of trademark dance, but then bottles, objects thrown from the stands. The players were called back towards the sort of the middle of the pitch, and Vinícius headed away from the corner, then exchanged words with lots of people on the opposite side in Benfica's team, including the man who he has said is ultimately the villain of the piece in his eyes, the Argentine winger Gianluca Prestianni, had words with him, and then, according to Vinícius and several teammates, his claim is that Prestianni directed repeated racist insults at Vinícius Júnior. And of course, the main thing then was the game was halted for roughly 10 minutes. This is UEFA's anti-racism protocol, and that's the point that Mourinho is effectively referring to here, the 51st minute. That's when everything happened, where ultimately UEFA decided to take their own action.